Hey everyone, Lee with Guild Wars 2 Hub here, and I wanted to bring you a video series I'm calling Outside the Meta, with today's video being about gear and stats. This is going to be mostly a PvE perspective video, and it will be mostly, well, almost exclusively taken from a Ranger standpoint. And this is to bring you a view on what the meta is, what it isn't, and how it is to play outside the meta. What your expectations are and what your strengths are and all these things of that nature. This video is inspired by the fact that there's a lot of how do you put this demand for a certain type of build within the PvE realm of Guild Wars 2, and then there's a lot of hostility towards people who don't play towards that meta, especially if you're not playing the right class, and those classes being generally warrior, thief, guardian, mesmer, and sometimes a ranger. Sometimes a ranger slips by. But this PvE perspective, we need to establish first what is the meta. And the meta is the Berserker. In this video here, it will show you the rough equivalent to what a Berserker can do. It is a strong hitting, just constant damage from your normal attacks, no condition damage, and no really healing power to really fortify yourself. People who play Berserkers need to rely on their ability to dodge and their utilities to sustain. So our next video is about the soldier. That's power, toughness, vitality, and you can see that the damage is always rather consistent. It doesn't really go outside the realm of what you would expect. It gives more strength behind your blows more consistently than a Berserker build will, but yeah, most of it is surrounded by your ability to sustain. This is a great all-around kit to have for any player, especially if you're going into new content, especially if you're new. Highly recommend it. Up next we have the Rampagers. This is power, precision, and condition damage. This is pretty much saying I'm going to hit you, I'm going to hit you hard, and I don't care what it gives me in return. I don't care if you take me out, because I'm probably taking you out with me. Most of the damage, once again, comes from your auto attacks, but there is the boosted condition damage. Once again, your heals are just enough to keep you alive, just enough to keep you alive. Finally, we have Clerics, which is healing power first, power and toughness. This is most people don't like this. Most people think that clerics are just garbage. People don't want to see a cleric on their team. People don't want clerics to even be around. People don't think clerics are a good thing. And I'll address this more later on. But as you can see, the damage is low. The condition damage is low. And your ability to survive is a lot higher. Your ability to survive in quick bursts and to escape. It's a very selfish, in a way, build. And then there are other builds to have out there. There is the Celestial, which is just all around. Everything is about a normal way. I don't have a video for this. We'll talk more about that in a later series. But the Celestial build is pretty good if you are making use of every aspect of what the Celestial stats give you. Celestial gives you a little bit of everything. So you need to be able to do a little bit of everything. It's a drawback and a positive. So anyways, let's move on to a dungeon video I have here. This is taken from a clip of when I was playing through Citadel of Flame Path 1, and I ran a normal Berserker build. I was just raw damage. I was just going through hitting things as hard as I can, and I wanted to be able to keep up. I wanted to move us through the dungeon as fast as possible. The strengths in a Berserker build for something like this relies on your ability to just hit, sustain, and dodge. When I say sustain, it's also the ability to ignore damage through things like save yourself, so in the case of the ranger, or endure pain in the case of a warrior, or things of that nature, where if there's a panic moment, you can have that just raw, I take damage, but you're not dealing any damage. Especially if you could do this with the traits. Like if you get down to 25%, for warriors, they have the trait that they automatically pop Endure Pain, which is amazing. This gives you a cushion to get out of there and to really sustain yourself. The weaknesses, of course, are in the fact that if you don't know how to dodge, if you don't know how to build appropriately, or if you have never run a dungeon before and you're running pure Berserker, you're likely going to die. You're likely going to die a lot. This is, of course, mitigated with more experience you have in the game, but if you are just brand new, it is a pain to really run a full Berserker build. Which brings me to why we're doing this discussion, why we're having a discussion on metas, why we're having a discussion on what should be, or what's outside the meta. Not everyone should be expected to run Berserker. It is a way to get through dungeons quickly, but if you could see in this video here and there are points where I'm dying, my friends are dying, everyone's kind of in a bad situation because not everyone is up to the standards of what playing pure Berserker is. And this isn't even going into how to get through dungeons fast with tips, with certain tricks that people have learned off of Elementalist's Fire Greatsword or Mesmer's quickness field. I forget what it's called, Time Warp. Yeah, there are specific tricks that people have for getting through dungeons even faster, and we're not even discussing that here. This is purely what you have to do when you are playing a Berserker, and that is hitting all the time. Never running away is really not an option, and the drawback is that if you are not able to play it, you're dead. You're dead, and you're just dead weight on the group. For more hardcore players and more hardcore groups, this means that you will get kicked almost immediately, which is just an issue for the community at large. I mean, you will see points within this video where I'm going down because I'm not used to playing full Berserker. I'm trying to play more of a full Berserker, but I'm not really accustomed to it. I'm not really skilled in that regard. And that's just who I am. That's what I expect, and I know where my strengths and weaknesses lie. Usually I'm playing a Knight's build, and that's just what I'm doing. I'm really good at being tanky for other people. I'm really good at being tanky for myself because I need a cushion. That's just the way I play. I'm not at the skill cap where I could just dodge through everything or be able to trick my way through everything. And that's just the way this part of our game goes. We're gonna move on now to another dungeon video here where I ran a full condition build. This condition build was a hybrid build, really. I didn't have full condition stats, but the point of the matter is that it is mostly conditioned. You can see that I'm running traps, which is and axe torch and shortbow. These are all really strong condition appliers for the ranger, and it's hands down one of my favorite builds that I found out after playing through this video and making this series for you, or making this first series for you. The strengths are all in the fact that you don't necessarily have to be, and this is not for every class, but for the ranger and for most classes that I can honestly think of, you don't really have to be constantly in something's face. You can let the damage tick through your conditions, and because you have a higher condition damage output, you're dealing 500 fire damage, you're dealing 400, 500 bleeding damage, you're dealing consistent poisons, and all these other conditions that are really handy for a group if they are not necessarily accustomed to a dungeon or a boss. There are builds out there where condition damage thieves and rangers can solo various dungeon bosses because of the ability to just sustain through the damage that they're receiving and then constantly be able to deal damage back to the boss. Well, the weaknesses there are in the fact that if there are other condition applying classes around you, if there is somebody else, and the truth of the matter is that everyone is able to apply conditions whenever they want to. It's just the way that Guild Wars 2 is built. So if your entire group of 5 are all applying bleeds, it's very likely that you're unable to apply your full stack of bleeds, which is an immense amount of damage because everyone else is splitting up bleeds among them. Or if somebody else is applying fire, burning, they are likely keeping that stack of burning for a long time, and it's not being calculated off of your stats. And this doesn't even go into the fact that conditions like freezing, cripple, weakness that don't even have condition damage associated with it sort of penalizes you for taking condition damage stats. You are not truly benefiting or truly building entirely condition, and to go condition duration, while kind of useful in PvE, is also kind of not, because everyone is applying those stats or those conditions regardless of what you're trying to apply or not. There is no bonus for having more condition damage stat when you are applying those a few conditions of that nature. But for the most part, it is really beneficial to have condition damage if you want to be a force of attrition. The expectations for a person who is running a condition damage build is that they still need to be kind of aware of what the situation is like around them. They can get jumped. They can be in vulnerable positions due to the way that they're trying to apply their conditions. My ranger build has the ability to throw traps, but I still have to get fairly close, and there is a point where I just get outright stomped because of that that detriment, that risk I have to take. And that's just the case for every player, or for any condition player. And it's a really, honestly, it is my belief that there should always be one person running conditions. It may not be the ranger, it could be a thief or a mesmer, somebody who can apply a full array of conditions are really handy. You know, get the bleeding, get the burning, get the confusion and the torment. If you can get all of those into one character and then just apply all the conditions across the board, and you be the only one applying those conditions for the most part, then you are going to really be a great person for your group, because you're dealing more consistent, or you're dealing faster damage. Your dots are faster than the way than a guardian, I'm sorry, not a guardian, but a warrior could deal with 100 blades or something of that nature, because they have to wait on a cooldown. You don't. You could just you just have to constantly apply and watch the numbers tick by. That's your only responsibility. Now we're going to move on to the last dungeon video here, and it is my support build. It is a Cleric's build with a little bit of mix of damage in there from my gear, my weapons, and my trinkets. But it's full Clerics with Trooper superior runes on it. So I'm running a combo of shout support and spirits. The spirit being Frost Spirit, which is one of the best ways for a ranger to support in the game. Here you'll see that I'm running around just using my abilities when I can. There's a situation in this video where I just outright save somebody due to my Spirit of Nature, which is a really great spirit, and most people don't really acknowledge that. Most people think that the only great res is the War Banner, where a Spirit of Nature can actually res more people faster. The cooldown for the Spirit of Nature's ability is shorter than that to summon another War Banner. But of course, the drawback is the fact that the Spirit of Nature can't be destroyed. But you can also trait that if the Spirit of Nature is destroyed, it instantly reses and applies its buffs to everyone around. The strengths are, of course, the ability to provide great support through my regeneration, my healing, and the ability for my pet to deal more damage through Sikkim and the Frost Spirit. I'm even wiping conditions with my shouts, with my healing spring, and my Spirit of Nature. It's a great way to clear off a lot of problems for a group. And if a Guardian is running, they can equally do that. If a Mesmer is running, they're the only class that I can... Well, no, Guardians. But they're the class that can cleanse off knockbacks with the with one of their mantras. They can heal through their mantras. It's a really strong build for a Mesmer. The weaknesses are, of course, are the fact that you're not dealing damage much at all. I'm mitigating this by being a longbow ranger so that I can stand further back and get the most or the maximum amount of damage from my longbow. But the problem is, because I'm so far back, I could not, or there are times where I'm not applying my shouts to my allies, or they're not benefiting from my spirit of nature or something like that. Those are the drawbacks, and there are a lot of people who believe that because you're running clerics, you aren't really providing much to the group in a PvE environment, mind you. In a World v World environment, some people enjoy clerics around. Some people enjoy it in a PvP environment. There's a point in this video where I revealed to my group that I am a cleric ranger. I'm running shouts, and they sort of laugh and ask me if I want to go on path 3 with them, the next path of Ascalonian Catacombs. And it was a really good time. I really enjoyed myself. Of course, the expectations there are the fact that you have to support. You can't go tunnel vision. You have to be there watching your allies' health, watching when they go down, watching when your spirits disappear. You have to make sure you're very aware of what your limitations of your build are. You do have the ability to stay alive longer than a Berserker because you also have your dodges and everything and your increased healing power, but you are a lot more frail because a Cleric doesn't have as much health in a way. They still have a very low amount of health. They have as equal low amount of health as they do to a Berserker. They have the bonus of having extra toughness and a higher healing power, but they could still take a pretty brutal beating. And that's another fact that I needed to bring up, that the dungeon bosses generally have a one-shot mechanic, and there's no amount of toughness or vitality that you get that will mitigate that one shot. And that's where a lot of people believe Berserker is the best, because there is that one-shot ability almost everywhere in the game, and to build into toughness and vitality is almost pointless because it doesn't help. It really doesn't help, except for in small short-term bursts, or in small short-term fights with trash mobs. And it's frankly true. But the point is, the reason why I'm showing you all this, the reason why I wanted to discuss all this, is that all of this is equally valid. If you have the right group composition, all of this is valid for any player to play. I wanted to prove to people that I can be a good cleric, I could be a decent condition ranger, and of course that I could play berserkers. I actually think, now that I look back, that I played a worse berserker than I played any of the rest of them. Which is, that would get me kicked out of groups. That would get me hated by the community, or a part of the community. So yeah, that's what this was about today. We will be looking at more videos in the future. I want to discuss more in-depth analysis of a cleric build, of a alternative builds for various classes. Things that are outside the meta. I want to look at PvP. I want to look at World v World. This is going to be a long series, and I hope to get a video out every week, and I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, please leave a comment. If you have any suggestions or anything, please leave a comment. Please send me a message. You can get at me at Twitter. There will be something in the article below this video, or just send me a message. Yeah.